cut out the Head Start program on the basis not enough white children involved. You can't make people go to a school and shouldn't that don't want to go. And I say they're hurting the very people they're supposed to be helping, which is the low-income people and mainly the Negro children. I think these investigators they send in that do these type jobs, I wish they would send some down here to investigate this SWACA, where they are stealing cucumbers from a big major private industry in the state of Alabama. This is being done. We've got the facts. And they won't send the FBI in, and they send these inspectors in here, and they check with no one and make these investigations and cut out something like Head Start, and it hurts only the Negro children. And frankly, they can keep their Head Start program if they want to, but they will not make people go to school that don't want to go. And this is basically the case.
It has been recommended that Alabama in the next biennium uh, at least remain at its present level of support for education, or according to one recommendation, that it be decreased slightly from the previous year's appropriation. This is serious because the legislatures which are meeting in other states universally have adopted substantial increases for education at all levels. Teacher salaries have been raised. University appropriations, with which I am most familiar, have seen throughout the United States increases ranging from 6.9% to 69%. And
during the past weekend, your Alabama State Troopers investigated 148 accidents. Out of these accidents, 73 people were injured and 9 people were killed. 2 weeks ago, I talked to the high school and college students of Alabama. This week, I want to talk to you as parents. I know if you will sit down and talk to your boy or girl who drives an automobile and endeavor to show them why it is so important for them to drive safe and never to violate the traffic laws, that it will certainly have a tremendous effect in regard to them driving safer. Your cooperation will certainly be appreciated. Question them in regard to the shooting this afternoon tonight.
to try to find out actually what the trouble was. I just want a true picture of what caused the ruckus, what they meant by it, or what they hoped to obtain by it. And I don't see any reason for it. And certainly want to see what brought it about.
Do you have any indication that these were actually involved in the shooting?
Well, all I can say, they were at the point that the shooting was coming from.
Look at it. Look at it. I think
We had a call ounce up there where they was shooting at a nigger's car and tearing it up. We started in, and they had a trap set down on the low end when we started into where the car was at. Well, they fired at the car then, and I thought they hit Kenneth. He fell over. So I called the other car, and it come in from the upper end, and they fired it on the upper end. And I started on up to meet it after I got the ambulance there to get Kenneth. And they fired on me again at the curve up there. So the other car come on down, they fired it the second time down in the curve.
Senator, what was the reason for submitting your letter before hearing the report of the examiner of public accounts?
it seemed like that I wasn't going to get a report from the examiner of public accounts. When they had the court hearing last Friday, was a week ago, for conflict of affidavits of one man, a letter was read into the court record that said upon completion of our audit of Mr. John Graves, he owes us X number of dollars. So I presumed that if they could write a letter like this to Mr. Graves at this time, that their audit must be finished. So I didn't know if I was going to get a copy or not, as I had requested.
primarily because a system of classification has emerged out of the natural practice of assessing ad valorem property through the years, rather than the present system of assessing.
Under your scheme, utilities would be taxed as much as 40%, farms as low as 15%. Why do you think the farm should be this low?
Well, the ability to tax, of course, also carries with it, I suppose you might say, the ability to destroy. Obviously, farmers are in the lowest position economically of any group of our business people and citizens. Their ability to pay is less. And this is fundamental to the assessment and collection of any tax, the ability to pay. And it is very readily seen when one studies the economic situation in agriculture that of all of our citizens, farmers are least able to pay, and hence this should be included in the classification system by putting the assessments on farmland at the lowest figure.
Feel that we have irrefutable evidence that there has been some misuse of state money.
What kind of evidence do you have?
We have gasoline credit card charges. We have telephone. We have lodging expenses. We think some registration fees that weren't paid or else exaggerated.
Which means the systematic extermination of the colored people in this nation. And we have learned that, and Governor Wallace is cooperating with us. The draft service is so unfair that when our boys get ready to do something, white boys go to college, Negroes go to Vietnam.
There have been none who have come forward with recommendations about where to get this revenue. There have been none who have come forward and suggested what the state's responsibility is in higher education. There have been none who have come forward and suggested places where we might find additional revenue for our local school system. There have been none who have tried to define the responsibilities of local counties and cities for the support of their local public schools. I think that we need, and I have proposed, a long-range study committee to to be composed of outstanding citizens of our state as well as legislators and educators, to make a long-range study of our educational needs, both in our institutions of higher learning and in our public school system, and perhaps even more importantly, to evaluate what is now being done both at the state and local level, and to define the responsibility for the future on each aspect of this governmental responsibility.
No, I'm only able to find 3 or 4 individuals that are opposed to submitting this proposition to the people. As you know, the people of Alabama in the general election of 1968 would have to express their wishes on this bill. That is, they would have to ratify the bill, or the constitutional amendment, really.
Well, how does this bill differ from the one that was defeated by 65 that was sponsored by former Governor George Wallace?
Well, this bill was actually introduced by me in 1963. It's been my bill for a number of years, and the governor got interested in it, and it is identical to the bill that was defeated in 1965.
Could you expound a little bit on the bill itself?
Well, it allows the governor, the lieutenant governor, the other executive officers, state constitutional officers we call them, the superintendent of education, commissioner of agriculture and industries, and the other elected state officials to secede themselves.
This is a public affairs conference which is sponsored by the Farm Bureau Young People, and the purpose of it is to acquaint young people with governmental affairs and their responsibility in this role.
How do you intend to do this?
We intend to do this by using a series of speakers in this 2-day conference to help to inform these people about what their responsibility is and how they can feel this responsibility. We have some very outstanding people who will be appearing on the program to speak in this field.
Why is the Farm Bureau sponsoring this program?
Well, as you know, this is Farm Bureau's is an organization which represents farm people, and this is one phase of our program. It's public affairs and governmental affairs, and we have a very good legislative program that we work to try to improve the life of rural living people down in rural areas.
Presented this list of demands you've given us this morning formally to the Montgomery City Commission?
I'm going to do that today.
Have you been granted a hearing before them?
Yes, I have.
system, we're leading in 13 states, according to the Gallup poll, including Texas, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. This is enough to say that the people of our region are going to control the election of the next president.
Well, now, you're going, or starting your first real trip into the South. Does this have any special significance?
No, this is not my first real trip into the South. We spoke in Virginia the other day, you know, which is really close to Washington, and, you know, had the largest crowd, according to the Virginia, the Richmond papers, that had attended any political rally that they knew of in the history of the state. And, of course, we're going to speak in all the capitals of the South in the next few months.
Wave radar system. The system works basically by generating a fan of RF energy which forms a fence across the southern portion of the United States. Any satellites entering into or passing through this fence reflects energy which is transmitted which is transmitted by one of 3 transmitting stations. The energy reflected from the satellites is then received by one or more of 6 receiving stations.
But our main goal will be to continue to simply allow the free enterprise system to work. We want the farmer to remain as free as possible from governmental controls and restrictions. We will perform in those areas which have been historically left to state government. But we will remember that our farm economy will remain strong only so long as we hold to those principles that the farmer must not be collectivized and victimized by government. We will continue to recognize that the role of government in agriculture is the same as it is with industry, as little interference as possible. I pledge to you at this time that all our efforts will continue to be directed toward the building of a better and more prosperous Alabama. Thank you very much.
Congressman Dickinson, I understand that you've recently been named to a special subcommittee of the Armed Services Committee by Chairman L. Mendel Rivers. Would you mind explaining the purpose of the subcommittee?
Our officers are promoted by law. The enlisted men's promotions come by regulation. There are many inequities. For instance, there are any number of instances where a fellow, say in the Air Force, a sergeant, has been in grade 8, 10, even 12 years. During that time, he's even received citations for combat, and yet has not been able to get promoted due to certain practices and regulations. While others back home in the States who've never seen combat because of a different set of circumstances, have been able to get promotions far and above the man actually in combat. As on an average, in some ranks in the Air Force, you have to be in grade twice as long, say, as in certain other equivalent branches of the service. So this is a special subcommittee that has been set up to look into the promotion procedures for all enlisted men in the armed services, and we will start having hearings soon and try to bring about equality and bring all servicemen in the enlisted ranks on a even par or parity.
Whoa. We sure hate to see the Dixie Division eliminated. Of course, we've heard this for several years, and maybe it won't come to pass. We certainly hope not. If it does, I'm sure that there'll be something for us to do. We, as old troopers in this division, we've always given it the best we have, and we've always played the game no matter what we've been assigned to. So I think we can make it all right in other things too. I sure would hate to see him eliminate the old DD, though. Would this be, I'll say,
And today the intellectuals in the bureaus in our own national government today are laying down the guidelines for every phase and aspect of our society. They don't trust the people. They are looking down their nose at all the people of our country, and they are telling the people of Florida that you don't have intelligence enough to decide what to do about your own school system, or your hospitals, or your labor unions, or your businesses. I don't advocate for the state of Florida any kind of school system. I don't advocate for the state of Virginia or California. I only advocate that the people of Florida determine the policies of their own school system. And if the people of Florida and of Alabama and of California are not intelligent enough and have morality enough to determine the policies of their own local democratic institutions, then we ought to abolish the states of Alabama and Florida and California and abolish the city of Miami and the city of Montgomery. These are the things we are talking about, and these are the things that concern people all the way from one end of our country to another.
These funds, which have been made available to other institutions, will be used to establish new positions, increase faculty salaries, and in general to improve and enhance the quality of the institutions. If we in Alabama make an attempt to stand exactly where we are, we will find ourselves losing our best people. We will find ourselves falling behind in the support of education to the extent that our young people will be deprived of what they should have as a rightful opportunity. I am convinced that the people of Alabama do not wish this to happen. I am convinced that the economy of our state is on an upswing and that we will see substantial improvement in our economy as we realize the fruits of new industry, new agricultural production, and new commerce in general.